While the Big 12 has become one of the most unpredictable conferences, it feels really predictable who's going to win it in 2026. The ordering after Texas Tech can go in a million different ways, but the Red Raiders have the best argument to win the Big 12 once again. I know the rest of the conference might be scoffing at that notion, especially with everything that happened this offseason with Brandon Sorsby and uncertainty on Will Hammond's health and how quickly he's going to step back into the lineup. But there's a lot more to buy into with Texas Tech than what they were bringing into the year with Sorsby. Without Sorsby, this is a loaded roster. It's an experienced one, it's a talented one, and it's one that's probably going to continue to dominate on both lines of scrimmage. I'm going to dig into my futures bet for the Big 12 and why I am buying into Texas Tech, as well as two other picks that I think generate a lot of intrigue and could potentially do damage this upcoming year. Before I do so, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future content. Hit the like button on this video and then comment below who you think is going to win the Big 12 this year. So as I've stated, Texas Tech has the strongest argument. Let's remove the whole quarterback situation. Last season, by the way, we had Baron Morton, who, solid player, was banged up, performed poorly against Oregon in the Orange Bowl. And despite him not being a totally consistent quarterback, the rest of the roster elevated the team. More importantly, their offensive and defensive lines were the reason why they were able to win the Big 12. They were touting an offensive line that would have gone toe-to-toe with many of the best teams in the SEC and in the Big 10. I personally think that the Orange Bowl, the problem wasn't the lines of scrimmage. It was Morton who underperformed. He made some brutal mistakes that cost them. They were getting pushed. They were able to create space. They were able to get after Dante Moore. It's not like they were completely outclassed. It had everything to do with an inability to make big plays through the air because, again, Morton struggled against that secondary. It helps them tremendously. By the way, they have plus 100 odds. It's who I'm picking. It's who I'm going with. In fact, you can get it at plus odds, I think, is a strong argument to invest in this before the season starts. But they're bringing back a lot from last year. Despite putting out Romello Height and David Bailey, there's a ton of dudes coming back. I bet you didn't know that they're number 2 in total snaps played. Not in terms of returning, but overall experience. Number 2 in total snaps. Number 6 in offensive snaps. And number 1 in defensive snaps. So not only are they bringing back key pieces, they're also bringing in a lot of new faces that are incredibly experienced. Their entire defensive line has new pieces, but a lot of these guys that they're adding have played a lot of football. Adam Trick, Mateen Igbaragba, geez, I've normally said that quite well, but having Bryce Pollock and Ben Roberts, guys that were unheralded key reasons why you were so dominant back in this unit is going to allow for Texas Tech to continue to defensively smother teams and also run over opposing teams on offense. This offensive line is undoubtedly the best in the conference, and I think that naturally, when you have the best offensive line, it is going to give you a leg up on everybody else, no matter what you are doing at quarterback. The one guy that I think that every college football fan should circle, and I believe that Texas Tech fans are going to be excited when they hear me talk about this guy, Quentin Joyner, is going to open a ton of eyes this upcoming year. He got injured in the preseason last year, wasn't able to play, was a huge loss, but despite that, they still got really good production out of Dickey and out of Williams. Joyner is far more explosive and elusive, the type of guy that I believe could be a 1,200-yard back. If that comes to fruition, we'll find out. Maybe too much damage has been done in the way that Dickey and Williams were so reliable last year that they're not going to just turn the keys over to Joyner. I really, really believe that Joyner is gifted enough to be a top 100 pick type of a prospect. He has juice. He has the ability to make guys miss. There is a real chance here that their run game could be leaned on with a 3-deep running back rotation, but I think that they need to give Joyner the primary carries. I'll probably be proven wrong. Something will probably change. We'll see what happens. But to me, he's one of the biggest sleepers in the country to have a huge year because he was deprived of what he could have done last season. It felt like a no-brainer that he was going to have a huge year when he transferred over from USC, but the injury completely cooked him. even if Will Hammond is slow to get going, if Will Hammond does step in, the reason to buy into Texas Tech is what they have built along both lines of scrimmage. They are an experienced team. They are a physical team. They're a talented squad that is going to be too much for most of the Big 12 to keep up with. With that being said, I do like BYU to finish in second, and theoretically, if there was a team that knocked off Texas Tech, it would be BYU at plus 550. BYU is another team that's not as experienced, but they're returning a lot of key pieces. They're 30th in total snaps, 40th in offensive snaps, 22nd in defensive snaps. There's been quite a bit of turnover with some defensive starters that moved on. The NFL, they're now gone. But the reason why I'm excited about this BYU team and what they could potentially accomplish is Bear Bachmeier and LJ Martin. I really like LJ Martin. I think that he is one of the most underrated running backs in the country. I am a total hack for 6'2", 220-pound running backs. He's got more juice than I think people give him credit for. And for what he produced last year and showed durability for his physical play style, having a dude that can tote the rock and do it physically in the Big 12 is such an underrated asset to have. Hence why I think that they're going to be able to maul teams and run the ball at will this upcoming year. But I love the idea of what Bear Bachmeier is going to do in his second full season. As a true freshman, he was brilliant. For a true freshman, he's had one of the better true freshman quarterback seasons that I can remember. Just overall, he was incredibly efficient. Did he have bad games against Texas Tech? Yeah, they weren't great. But those were the toughest opponents that he faced. Outside of that, he had performances, clutch performances, where he made big plays, he limited turnovers for the most part, and he showed really good physicality as a runner. I think that as he develops as a passer, this BYU team gets better and becomes increasingly more dangerous. Bear Bachmeier is the key to BYU continuing the recent stretch of success. Lastly, the team that I love as the sleeper pick here is Oklahoma State at plus 2,700. Despite bringing in practically an entirely new roster with Eric Morris coming over from North Texas, they are third in the country in total snaps for projected starters, or just for the team in general, seventh in offensive snaps, and third in defensive snaps. Somehow, some way, despite having an entirely new roster, they are comically experienced. Now, this does have a little bit of the Kurt Cignetti, Indiana year one type of a feel to it, because it's practically identical in the regard that a lot of dudes from North Texas came over. We're going to find out if an American roster is able to compete in the Big 12. I would argue that it's probably easier for an American Conference team to transition to the Big 12 than it would be for going to the Big 10. I feel like they're capable of going 9-3 and stunning a lot of people. I don't know if they're necessarily ready just yet, especially with figuring out if they have the dudes along both lines to go to war with a team like Texas Tech and BYU and Houston for that regard, and Utah as well, whenever they might end up facing any of those teams. I believe that this core has enough to buy into that they could upset or beat teams that nobody is projecting them that they will. They're low down in the odds for some reason. They're below Kansas State, which doesn't make any sense to me. Kansas State's roster was gutted. The major buy-in comes for Caleb Hawkins and for Drew Mestemaker. Caleb Hawkins was a brilliant freshman running back last year. He dominated in the American Conference. He was fantastic at plunging into the end zone and producing big plays when needed. But Mestemaker is the real excitement with all this. Mestemaker has an NFL arm. He has shown a year-by-year growth and progression despite having very limited experience having played the position. Mestemaker is the type of piece, type of wild card that takes a team over the top. I don't know if this upcoming season is the year that their goals of winning the Big 12 would come to fruition that quickly. But I do believe that in 2027, assuming Mestemaker comes back, which I think that he is going to, because I don't know if he necessarily would be a lock to be a top 15 pick, and it'd be better off if he was given one more season of development with how green he is for playing the position, 2027 would be the year that I would intriguingly buy in, because a lot of these dudes are going to be stepping back on this roster, and you've got the veteran quarterback with the live arm. All of those things would set up for a potentially memorable 2027 season. Folks, do me a favor, comment below who you think is going to win the Big 12. Hit the like button on this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. I'll talk to you later.